Thank you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you, ladies, for your time. I know it's 11 where you are. So that means that you must be very intentional about showing up for what you want, what you say you want. So my name is Adriana Onabogu. Thank you for the introduction, Deanna. I met my husband on a dating site, specifically on Match.com. As a divorcee with 3 kids by 2 different men, why is that important? Because there's a lot of conversation that can make us feel like we're supposed to settle for less than. And I feel like when you go through a divorce, that marriage was already the less than, right? So you don't need to do that again. We need better. We need standards, right? We'll never understand the mentality behind, oh, she only wants this now because she got kids. Exactly, right? Exactly. Because we have less room for trial and error. So I want to talk today about how you can attract your dream husband online. And I say this not because this is like a one and done type of thing, right? Every man you meet is not going to be your husband. However, the more you position yourself for opportunity to receive him, i.e. online, I believe the more likely it is that you will find him. But it starts with the mindset and understanding that dating sites have a bad rep. Yes, they do. But so does regular dating. A lot of women married their high school sweethearts, and he wasn't shit either, right? So, online dating, I think, for us is really good because it keeps us in our power. I really love it, and truly, I feel like when you date online, you have the ability to stay a bit more in control than if you were to meet someone in person, because you have time to really think about what you're going to say. You have time to really create a profile that allows him to get just a peek into your world so that he can start showing you that he's paying attention. And for me specifically, I had more photos on my dating profile than I had words because I wanted him to see me. Okay. I wanted him to see all of it. No catfish. I was very confident, and I believe that your confidence and your energy exudes through the camera, exudes through the platform. The platform is not the issue. It's not understanding how to utilize it. So I hope that you all are planning to take some notes, because one of the most important things that I want you to take away with this conversation is understanding how to be energetically attractive. Being energetically attractive is extremely important on a dating site because people feel you literally before they get a chance to really see you. They might see some pictures, they might see some videos here and there, but they feel you through conversation. And when you show up guarded in that conversation, there's not room for a lot of connection. So I'm gonna give you a little game on what I did to my husband. You can take it, copy, paste it, and do whatever you want with it, okay? So I was on multiple dating sites. I was on Match and Bumble. And quick tip here, I always recommend my clients to get on Bumble. And the reason why is because if you want to really stand out, right? You want your feminine energy to stand out. Most women go away from Bumble because it requires the woman to be the one to speak first. I don't know many women who feel comfortable speaking to a man first because typically it makes us think we're in our masculine energy. But for me, and what I tell my clients is that it actually trains you to do more than sit and wait for a man. That doesn't mean you pursue him. It doesn't mean that you go after him, but it means you drop a seed, you plant a seed, and you continue to let him go with that. Her husband is madly in love with her. Oh, that was you, Deanna. Yeah, he's absolutely madly in love with me. I can say that. That's probably the biggest flex. But when you decide to be the woman to do something different, you automatically stand out. And that is something that you should have fun doing. So what I mean by that is, like, on Bumble, you have to, I believe it protects women. Like, you have to see his profile and he see your profile, but you don't know Who sees you at all unless you're interested? Again, some women, they're like, no, I like to be chased. I want my DMs to be popping. I want all that. But Bumble is not designed that way. Bumble is designed basically where you don't waste your time. You don't talk to anyone that you're not interested in. And I really like that because I had a lot of guys in my DMs when I started the first time online. I think it was POF. That's a whole other conversation, but it was POF or Tinder or something like that. And I was like, okay, this is a lot, but I want to go where there's intentionality. And I do believe that sites like Hinge, Bumble, and Match have a bit more intentionality because the caliber of people on there. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that there's not still some stuff there, because there is. But when people are willing to pay to play, they're more likely to be intentional about what they want. And you can pay to play on platforms like Tinder and POF, but their reputation is not the best. Doesn't mean you can't find what you want. But I have found that prior to me meeting my husband, men that I've met on Bumble and Match were really good guys. I didn't use Hinge, but I have clients who've met their person on Hinge, and I've taken a look and done some research on it. And I'm like, okay, I can see why, because of the way that it's set up. But when I was on Bumble, and I met my husband on Match. So before we get to him, we're going to talk about these other dudes that didn't make the cut. Not because they weren't good, but they just didn't qualify. So on Bumble, I was testing my ability to be comfortable talking to men again after divorce. Highly recommended. Because sometimes it's not that you're not attractive. It's not that you're not enough. It's you're not comfortable. And when you're uncomfortable having conversations with men, they know. And they love it because they feel like they have the leg up. But it's the woman who is extremely comfortable in her ability to have conversation, to ask questions, and to vet properly that stands out the most, that gets chased. The reason I mentioned that I was divorced with 3 kids by 2 different men is because I am supposed to be considered the type of woman you run away from. But these men wouldn't leave me alone. They wouldn't leave me alone because the experience that I had was all that I needed to say, I'm never going through this again. It completely changed me in some of the best of ways because my standards were raised. I knew exactly what I wanted and what I didn't want because I'd already experienced it. And for me, I told myself, I tell this to my clients, you have to create 5 laws. These are laws that you don't let other people cross, and you don't cross them either. Sometimes those laws will say we won't tolerate someone that does this, this, and this, but then we'll make exceptions for them because they weren't really a law. They were like a nice to have, maybe so. But you have to have non-negotiable laws that you know you cannot cross, or you'll find yourself in the same situation as your last relationship. One of my 5 laws was I could not be with a man that didn't have kids. And a lot of men were very surprised by this. And surprisingly enough, being in Atlanta, I heard that like everybody got kids, but I met 90% of men that did not have kids when I was dating. And I remember a lot of them were kind of pushing back and wanting to challenge the notion and like, hey, I could be a great stepdad. I'm not worried about kids right now. So are you sure this is, and I was like, no, because I won't be able to give you the legacy that you deserve. I would always break it to them gently because they were good dudes, but they were going against my laws if I said yes. And I knew that if I said yes to somebody, if I broke my law and I said yes to someone that I said I was going to say no to, it was a high chance that in a couple years, he'd either want a child with me, his first child would be my 4th, which I just couldn't do, or he will resent me for not getting to experience the things that I'm experiencing, like birthdays, graduations, and all the amazing things. And I didn't want that. If I ever decided to be with someone who did not have kids, and there was only one guy that almost made the cut, it was because he did not want kids. He straight up told me, I'm not interested in kids. I'm a mentor. I do a lot with kids. And he was like, I'm more cool with being a part of someone's village. And even that wasn't enough for me. I went in depth and asked. I said, okay, so you have this business. He turned a U-Haul facility or something like storage facility into a gym that was doing very well in Atlanta. So I asked him, well, if you don't want to have any kids and you really mean that, what's going to happen to your legacy of your business? And he told me, I have a business partner. That's what he's for. I don't want kids. He straight up said, I don't want a child that's like me. I don't. He said, I'm not going to lie. It's not that I'm a bad guy, but I can't handle another me. I would rather be around someone else's kids. And I was like, okay, I could accept that answer. We didn't get too far. He got a little too clingy, so I had to let him go. But I was still vetting. And in having these conversations with these men, I said, you know what? I was in a sexless marriage. I was in a marriage where, well, it didn't start out sexless, but it ended up that way. I was in a marriage where I didn't feel desired. I didn't feel wanted. And I left that marriage wondering, like, is it me? Am I the problem? Am I not interesting? Like, what is it? So initially, the dating site was just to see if I still got it. And that energy was a very different energy of when I decided, okay, I want to be serious. However, me just trying to test the waters and see, okay, Adriana, do you still got it? Like, you got 3 kids. This thing didn't work out. You're still like, you're 26 years old with 3 kids now, but you're still cute. But what, like, do you still got it like that? So I was like, you know what? Let me test the waters. And I started thinking about, you know what? If I could really just be the version of myself that I wish I could have been in my marriage, who would that be? It was a very confident, reserved woman that my ex-husband actually found boring. And I had to accept that and just say, you know what? He may have found it boring, but let me see what that looks like with someone else, what those conversations look like. And when I tell you, it was a breath of fresh air for these men. And mainly because I've never been the type of person that was afraid to talk to men. I just didn't know how to speak my dream husband's language. I spoke regular dude language. And because of that, I got a regular ex-husband. And I had to work on that energy, that language. Because when you start saying things like, what's your favorite color? What do you like to do? What do you do for work? The basic stuff, how were you raised? Were you in a 2-parent? Like, all those things, very, very basic. And it attracts that. And anything beyond that, my ex actually couldn't handle because it was too much for him. And instead of recognizing that as an issue, the lack of ability to go deep, I just accepted it and said, well, let me just stay here. So after the fact, I started having questions with men and I would start having conversations with them. And instead of saying things like, good morning, how are you? I would just say things like, hey, how's your Tuesday treating you? And those little differences would make them say, well, you know what? Now that you're settled, it's going pretty damn good. What about yourself? Where do you live? What do you do? When can I see you? And I realized that women don't like to put in the extra work. We like going above and beyond explaining what we want, but we don't take the time to care enough about what someone else wants, someone that we're planning to be in a relationship with. It's a natural selfishness that sometimes when we're surrounded by other women that are like that, nobody checks us. So I knew, listen, I have 3 children. I don't have time to be selfish. I should have been selfish the first time and I wasn't. Now I want to be selfless with the right person and they do the same for me because I was a giver that married a taker. And I was really ready for someone who was also a giver as well. So when I started having these conversations on Bumble, it truly was just to see if I still got it, to flirt and all of that. And I got off very quickly because I realized, oh my goodness, I do still have it and I'm not ready for this right now. I need to go away. But I met a couple guys. A lot of them did not have kids. And I would tell them, hey, like, I'm letting you know now, I'm looking for, when I'm ready, I want to be with someone that already has kids. I want to be with someone that's already been married and divorced and gone through the whole thing like me so that I don't have to explain certain things. A lot of them tested my laws. They will test your laws. They might look good. They might have a good job, but you have to know what your laws are so that you can properly put those laws on your dating profile, but not in a masculine way. So a lot of them, they end up just not being him. I met my husband. I switched over to Match. And I said, you know what? let me be intentional, because I do know that despite my experience, I enjoy being a wife. I just didn't enjoy being a wife to him. But I loved the idea of being that person for somebody. He just wasn't the right one. So let me be more intentional. Let me stop telling men that I'm retired when they tell me they're looking for a wife. Let me be nice. Let me show up. Let me stop playing. And I met my husband 2 weeks later on Match. When I met him, I was scrolling through profiles. And again, I had, I think, 21 pictures. And because I knew I looked good. I was like, I have 3 kids, where? Like, I knew, like, come on. So I just said, you know what? I'm gonna just put it out there. I'm gonna put some stuff here and there. I'm very witty. I know how to have conversation. I'm confident. I've gone through the stage already of being uncertain. I know that I'm her. But let me see who shows up now that I'm in this energy where I'm not uncertain and I'm pushing people away. There were a couple guys that came up on that site. Some of them, they worked really good jobs or were really good entrepreneurs. And even with that, I was able to sense the difference of what I was attracting. A lot of that had to do with the energy being attractive. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But when I met my husband, he had some pictures on his site, on his profile. And I saw that he had sons. And that was very attractive to me, because I specifically wanted a guy with kids, and even more specifically, a guy with sons, because I was a stepmom in my previous marriage to a little girl. And I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't ever want to do that again. Please send me sons. Mind you, I have 2 girls and a boy, but I was like, I can't do the whole daddy's girl thing. So if he has sons, that'd be great. He had sons. He was 10 years older than me, but he looked different on all his pictures. So I couldn't really tell how cute he was, but I saw one photo where I was like, you know what? He's giving daddy vibes. So I'm gonna click on this profile. I'm gonna like it, and I'm gonna keep scrolling, and then we'll just see what happens. It truly was no pressure. Like I said earlier, every man is not gonna be your husband. If you carry the energy of, well, let me see if he's him, let me see, you're going to frustrate yourself. It was in my ability to just be okay with if he's him or not, that he showed up as him. He ended up sending me a message. He said something to me, and I don't remember what he said, but I know I kind of like laughed. And eventually he said things to me like, where did you come from? And I told him, I came from your rib. What's up? He said, oh, damn, that's how you feel? I said, that's how I'm feeling. Like, what's up? He said, I'm 10 years older than you, because you said you're 27. I'm 37. How do you feel about that? I said, I prefer it. And he said, okay. So you're going to be my wife. You're going to be my wife. And I definitely want to meet you. But we had just really good conversation, because the thing was, I didn't really care. It wasn't meant to be like, oh, I'm really about to marry this man. It was fun. And that's what it's supposed to be. Dating is supposed to be fun. But what prompted him to even try to say things to me a certain way was my profile. My profile didn't say what I don't want. That is the biggest mistake a lot of women make. Their profile leads with what you can't be, what you won't tolerate, and what you don't like. That is extremely unattractive, because it makes a man who is ready for a wife say she needs to heal. She's going through something. She's been going through trauma, because for you to put all the things you don't want on a site that is supposed to be about what you do want, it's conflicting. Now, the wrong type of men will see that and say, well, hey, I'm not a smoker. What's up? Hey, I love God, and I do this stuff too. So what you trying to do? But that's surface stuff, right? You want depth. So your dating profile should match the version of you that your friends get. Heavy on that part. Sometimes we are our best selves with people we're the most comfortable with, and we force people to take time to get to know us before they get to really experience us, which is ass backwards. It shouldn't take someone spending a lot of time with you to notice really good traits about you. And if it does, it's typically a defense mechanism, because you're afraid of getting too close. So instead of them experiencing your humor, your wittiness, your vulnerability, and your femininity, you give them cold, disconnected, don't play with me, what you here for? And it repels the kind of men that you really want to come towards you. So when I typically help, or I don't do this anymore, but I used to help women with their dating profile, and the biggest issue that they were running into was there was a version of them that I knew. So I'm writing based off of their personality that I get, because I make them feel safe and vulnerable to know how they are. But when a man would send them a message, that's not the version of her he would get. He would get something completely different. And I would look through her messages and say, like, are you interested or not? Because it's giving, I don't really want to be on a dating site. And she would say, well, these men, they do this, their profiles are like this. You cannot care about what a man's dating profile looks like more than you care about yours. I didn't make the rules and it's not fair, but men are not always going to put in the same effort as we are on our dating profile. However, that doesn't mean you give them a pass. That means that you understand, you know what, when guys are on here, they're visual, so they're looking at if she's pretty, does she make sense, and can I afford to take her on a date? That is why I had so many photos at different stages of me taking myself on dates, me just hanging out by myself, or me being out and about with friends. Now, they're going to come to your inbox regardless, but it's what you do and what you say that keeps them interested in having a conversation with you. The WYD, WBU, all of those things that are very boring, and you're waiting for him to do something, you need to know that you don't have to wait for him to make things interesting. You're allowed to do that. And you do that by asking questions that they don't typically get from women, because we only ask stuff or say things that pertain to us. If you ever want to stand out in real life or on a dating site, ask him something that is about him. Ask him things like, has a woman ever loved you the way you want her to? Things that make him think about his actual experience with women. I asked my husband, what would your ex-wife say is the reason you guys got divorced? I don't give a shit about why you think you got divorced. I want to know what your ex-wife would say. Because in your response, it tells me what things she may have experienced with you that I can keep an eye out on. But when you only get sucked into the fun dates and the good sex, you eliminate the ability to understand his character. And then you wake up and it's 6 months and you realize you guys don't even share the same values, because you don't know what you value. And that means you also don't know what he values, because you don't know what kind of questions to ask. You can't do what every woman is doing and have a different experience on a dating site or in real life. If you're creating your dating profile and you are aggravated, you're tired of trying to find photos, you treat it like a chore, that is exactly what it's going to feel like when someone scrolls on your page. Because it's your energy. It's through your words. It's through the little things you say about yourself. And I don't even recommend with certain sites, I think majority of them, they allow you to pick questions that you want to answer. Some of them are things like, what is your ideal first date or romantic date? I recommend you not even answer those basic questions. I recommend you actually answer something that challenges you, because even though men don't always put in the same effort on their dating profile, my husband did. Like, he's a Virgo. So, I mean, Deanna, he's a Virgo. Of course he did. And he's in tech. So he did. But he may not put in the same effort because they just do things differently than us. They're more prone to do things in other ways than to create a dating profile. Usually their daughters or somebody created the profile for them. They take horrible photos. Like, they're just not, that's what they have wives for, but they single, so they can't do it properly. So that's why you have to have the ability to discern, you know what, his profile maybe is not as up to par as I'd like or like mine, but what does he look like? When I have conversations with him, what do those feel like? And is this someone that I feel like I could allow myself to gift my presence to? But you can only really determine that when you're having conversation with him. Let him send you messages. because that's what they're going to do. They're going to send you messages anyway. But how you respond to their messages will let you know if they're worth a date. Too many people have come to me and said, yeah, I've had horrible experiences because, they said this and they wanted to meet and I met them and I did this and I did that. And they either tried to have sex with me or they did this and they did that. And I'm like, why on earth did you go on a date with somebody that you just met, you didn't vet, and is surprised that he tried to smash? When you move like that, when you're overly available like that, of course, that's exactly what he's going to try to do. But we forget our power. No one can do what you don't allow them to. They can't. You have control over that. So set your profile up to where it's of a woman who wants to be there, who is intentional about what she wants. And although you might get some guys who their profile is just like, their pictures might be like this and like this, you're able to say, you know what, let me see what the conversation is like. Because what really matters is when you talk to him, the caliber of man that you have. What my husband looked like on his dating profile in person and now are three different things. I'm not saying to settle. Don't misunderstand. My husband is handsome, but his pictures, he needed some help. He needed someone that could understand his angles. But he just didn't know. I just decided, you know what? He's kind of cute, but I can't really tell. But the conversation is really good. So let me just see him in person. And when I met him in person, after talking to him, I was like, oh, wow, I could really like this guy. Like, okay, you need some help. I told him, you don't know your angles, do you? Like, not that you need to put them on there now because I've met you. I don't really want you to do that. But, dude, my goodness, he was clueless, truly clueless. And thank goodness for me, because other women that he'd met on there, he told me that he said the same thing to me that he said to other women, right? And the only difference between him proposing to me in 10 months and not them was the conversation. He told women he's looking for a friendship first and wanting it to build into something else. The other women he said this to, who had gone through trauma, who had already not really wanted to be on the dating site, they heard he's looking to play. I've been through trauma and I refuse to ever go through it again. So all I said was, I'm looking for a friend too. I'm not trying to jump into anything. I've been there, done that. So that sounds cool with me. No pressure. But then me saying that made him apply all the pressure because I was not tied to him being the one. He had to prove that to me. And he's explicitly told me, I plan to let you vet me as much as you want to and give you a reason to stop talking to other men because I know that you are. And I never agreed or denied anything. I just said, I appreciate that. I'll be looking forward to seeing you, do what you say you're going to do. Sometimes the pressure of like, am I going to waste my time? Do I really want to do this? Is the only thing keeping you for what you want. And that energy shows up online and in person. That energy is not attractive. So some people will say, so do you mean I shouldn't even respond to people if I'm not in a good mood? Yes, don't. Because people can feel that. You have to be energetically attractive beyond physical attraction. Because if you're not, he won't be able to really connect with you in the way you would want him to. He won't be able to give you what you want because you won't even be in a position to receive it. You have to get to a place where you're able to receive whatever comes up on the other side of your messages, whoever says things to you. But if your mindset is not really ready for a dating site, you shouldn't be on it. If you are not serious about wanting to find your one, if you are exhausted and tired of going through all the things, you should not be on any site until you can cleanse yourself of that energy and just rest in receiving. Because that's what men want to do. They want to give you stuff. But if your energy is blocked by all of the things of the past, all of the podcast bros, all of the things that's going on social media, you won't be able to know when it arrives. Truly, online dating is 1,000% fun. It's exhausting. I'm not gonna say it's not, because there was a point where I was going on a date once a week and I was exhausted, but I didn't pay for dinner, so I wasn't tripping. I will say it's fun when you know what you're doing and you're not trying to be overly attached to the results. When you know, I am a great woman, in the presence of the right man, he'll recognize it. If he doesn't, that is not my problem. You enjoy the company and conversation of men more. Your dating profile should express you being an experience rather than you explaining about the things that you don't like, about the things that you require. Nobody should go to a page and see the things that you require or you don't like without having a conversation with you first, because it can be misleading. You have every right to feel the way that you do, but when you say things without people knowing you, knowing your heart and your intention, it comes off like you are a part of the community of every other woman who is just complaining about men, and you're not. You have valid reasons for feeling the way that you do, but let people get to know you first. Allow your dating profile to not be a resume, but to be like an itinerary of an amazing trip. Things that you want to do, that you feel good doing, that allow men to say, oh, so I see that you like sushi. Have you ever been to this place? He can't do that if everything is about the opposite. All the things you don't like, what you don't want to tolerate, and all of those things. I think if we can make sure that is not on your profile, that you show you're an experience and not a man's experiment because of the things you've gone through, you will enjoy it a hell of a lot more. No emotions attached. Online dating, like I said, can be exhausting, but when you are not emotionally attached to the process or the person so early on, it's fun. We have to manage our emotions again and not assume that every single person we meet might be the one. Of course, deep down you can wonder, like, okay, I want to see how he shows up. I want to see how he positions himself to be in my life. But anything other than that will take away the experience of you really just connecting with men who want you. Allow yourself to be wanted. Be desired, be desirable, have conversation, the same comfort you have with your friends, have it with a man, because they're no different. One just knows you a little bit longer than the other, but there's no reason to be guarded with him if you're not going to be guarded with your friend unless somebody does something to you. But all he's trying to do is get to know you. So your energy and your attitude towards a person who's coming online should be the same as if you were to meet someone in real life and they just said, oh my gosh, you're beautiful. How are you? Instead of them saying, hey, you're beautiful. I like your page. And you say, thanks. How do we converse from there? Like, how do we connect if we're not engaging? We really don't want to be here. Your energy says it all. I'm telling you. Too many men came after this divorced mom with 3 kids and 2 different baby daddies who was a teen mom at 17. And they didn't give a damn because when we started having conversation, they said, wow, you have a lot of experience, or you're seasoned, or you have wisdom. Intentional men don't look at you the same as the ones who are not qualified to date you. They don't. They look at you as something completely different, especially if you've been divorced and you have kids. They look at you as somebody that can be an asset to their lives because they already have strong things and goals that they're accomplishing and doing and have to do. They want someone that can be an experience so that they have a moment to take a break. When you're matching that energy that they already have, there's no use for you there because he already has that. He needs something that is going to balance him. And really good conversation, believe it or not, can do that. Conversation that speaks to him at his core. Conversations that make him have to sit and think about questions instead of answering them on autopilot because you're asking things like every woman. What do you do for work? What's your credit score? What's your intentions? Like, cool. But how about, let me think of one on the spot. How about, have you ever felt comfortable being vulnerable in front of a woman? Or how about, how has your father shaped your way of being a man? Or how about, what would your future wife have to do to make sure she keeps your trust? What does that look like and feel like for you? What do people do to earn you being in their life? They don't feel like anybody earns them. They feel like workhorses. So when you ask questions that make them really be like, you know what? I am valuable. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know. They start talking a lot. And then women will complain about that to me too. Oh my God, he just talks so much. Listen to what he's saying. He tells you everything when you let him talk. You can make your own decisions by just one conversation, by asking the right questions. He will literally pour his soul out to the woman that is emotionally hitting him in ways that even his probably first wife never did. I've met men who've told me they've been married once or twice, and the little things that I've said to them, they've never heard before, and they've been 10 years older than me or more. So my little 27-year-old self was like, oh, I'm getting one, and I'm gonna get a nice one, because I know what to say. But the thing is, it wasn't an act. I actually cared about who I was about to merge my life with, because it failed the first time I tried to do it. So it was in my best interest to really get to know, like, who are you, guy? Besides your titles, besides your ability to provide, what will I get from you as my man outside of finances? I had a guy tell me, well, you have a house, because I bought my house at 21 years old. So you can tell me shit. You bought a house, you have a car, so I don't really know what I can give you. And I told him, well, that's unfortunate, because I want something you cannot buy me. And you didn't even ask me what that would be. So he was it was a no, because you think your value lies in financial gain, in tangible things. You have no clue about emotional intelligence, emotional protection, none of that stuff. And that's what I wanted, because I already had the other things. But it's up to me to not go against my laws. It's up to you to pay attention to the things they're saying. Once you get them all warm and fuzzy and they feeling like they never met a woman like you before, they just start talking. Listen and see if the version of him he's explaining to you is compatible with not just where you are, but where you're trying to go.